Come here. Good. Alright. Lights-ish. Alright. Okay. Good boy. Good cat. Good evening. I am here to talk about Lucifer number 3, which is the last Vertigo comic that I haven't read. All the rest of them, I've either read them or discarded the series, so I'm not reading any more of them because they're terrible in many cases. So really, from God, what was it, like 11 titles, like somewhere between 9 and 11 titles, and I found 2 that are The Dreaming is Good and Lucifer is excellent. Having read number 3, I can say with some confidence that Lucifer is very good. And here's why. Dude, don't mess with stuff. And that has chocolate in it. You're not allowed to have that. Alright, here's the thing about Lucifer number 3. With Lucifer number 1, I was kind of wondering, you know, we have a different Lucifer. We have him in a very transformed state. He doesn't look like Lucifer. He doesn't act like Lucifer. He's not powerful like Lucifer. You're like, who is this new guy? What the hell is going on? Why do I care about events? I have no anchor, nothing to latch onto and go, okay, I know this, and then I can figure out where things are, and then kind of go from there, larger and larger circles, till I can get a better picture of what's happening and how events are proceeding and so on. With Lucifer number 1, it was, there's nothing. It's like I know where we're going. We're adrift at sea. I get where they're going now, having read number 2 and now number 3. The premise is, not to spoil any of this, because I strongly recommend reading number 2 and 3. Number 1, you just got to get through. It's a slow burn that leads up to 2 and 3, and 2 and 3 are very satisfying. The premise is, here's Lucifer, and things are different for him. It's not really clear why. If you're not familiar with the character, you have nothing to latch onto at all, which makes number 1 not great for a new reader. Once again, 2 and 3 will help with that a lot. What happens is, each issue, if it continues with this pattern, is this ongoing story of where Lucifer is right now. This other story about how he got there more recently. So there's like a second... I love this cat. There's a second story arc. Careful. There's a second story arc about how he got to this point. I think that's what it's leading up to. It wasn't clear at first, but that's clearly what's happening. We're going to find out how Lucifer got to where he is now. So, story arc number 2. Story arc number 3, there is some story about a guy, his wife has cancer, and their story, which is later his story. So where does that lead? So story arc number 3. Finally, issues 2 and 3 both had a flashback, like kind of a short story about Lucifer in the past, where he's being all Lucifer-y. Number 2 had a Mask of the Red Death story. This one has, I don't want to spoil it, but a famous writer, poet, artist. And it was cool. The Red Death story was cool. This story was cool too. It's so, and this kind of clarified, kind of crystallized why I didn't like House of Whispers. House of Whispers, it's 1.5 storylines going on simultaneously, and they're not very good or interesting. They're not proceeding at a very good pace. In this book, I'm getting one complete story, one beginning to end complete story about something happening. Usually it's the flashback one. I'm getting this other story explained to me slowly how we're getting to where we are. A second one explaining what is going on around it, and so on. I'm essentially getting 4 stories. 2 of them are part of a greater story arc, and I suspect 2 of them are going to converge. but I'm getting a lot of information. I'm getting a lot of story in each of these books. Number 2 and 3 in particular. 3 especially. I'm getting some shit happening. And yet it's never an info dump. It's never just one page with nothing but dialogue and omniscient narrator explaining everything in the world. It's nothing like that. It's very well paced. I think it's written by Waters. Should check that out real quick. I mostly want to lean on the writer on this. The art looks fine. Pencils, the art looks great. The color, it looks good. Especially the flashback scenes. But the real strength on this has been the writing. It's very different than Mike Carey, where we generally have one main story arc going on and then side stories in every issue. So kind of 2 stories per book. A continuation of the main story arc and a minor side story. Sometimes there might be 3, but those are usually something that diverges and verges, I guess, into the main story plot. This is actually 4 distinct lines, one of which is a flashback. All of them inform the main story arc, but they're all separated. It's really good writing. I can't stress this enough. That's the strength of this one. So I'm looking into this Dan Waters guy, and I don't know too much about him, but nor does the cat named Mr. Knightley. We're both beside ourselves trying to figure out who this dude is. And I'm seeing like Wolfenstein, The Shadow, Dark Souls, Assassin's Creed, Lucifer 2018, that's interesting. Oh, well, yeah, duh, it's the series I'm reading right now. Yes, Knightley, I'm getting to that. Also, something called 24 Panels. I'm now curious about 24 Panels and everything else this guy wrote, because Lucifer, like I said, 1 was a little muddy. 2 and 3 were excellent, and this series is supported mostly by its writing. This is much the same way. A lot of the Lucifer comics were, yes, Knightley, a lot of the Lucifer comics were strongly Mike Carey's work. Like, this is Mike Carey. I am reading this to read Mike Carey, who later went on to write a bunch of novels, many of which are excellent, by the way. Regardless, I love these cats. Regardless, I recommend picking up Lucifer number 3. I'd strongly recommend the series now. It's the one unabashedly good series that they've made. Dreaming is kind of, it's been good. Parts of it have been kind of, once again, a little murky. It's like not clear, things, it's just not as clean. It's not vague on purpose, or at least I don't think so. This one has been excellent. This has been the one excellent Vertigo series. I'd recommend getting it, and I'm just babbling, so I'm just going to stop it here. This is Vlogmas Day 20, and I am now officially out of Vertigo titles. I'm out of the new Vertigo titles, which was the whole premise of reviewing these, was to specifically do the Vertigo titles, and I've run out. I either don't have any more to read, or I've quit reading the series that I thought sucked. So I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. We'll see. That's me, I'm out.